discuss local area types of local area networks that you might come across. Area networks. Local area talk about data transfer on a local area network, also known as a network is just two devices. And we're also going to feature with different physical medium, like a wire cable area networks or a radio signal. This picture here. Local area networks. So first, what is a network? Right? A network is just two devices that are connected to each other with a physical medium, like a wire cable or a radio signal. This picture here, just a wired cable, like an Ethernet cable. The connection allows two devices to just exchange data back and forth. So there we have some data moving across, some binary there. We'll talk about binary in a little bit. Networks have a lot of different purposes too, okay? They're used for communication and collaboration inside of a business or an organization. They allow us to share information and resources like text and tweets. They make it possible for us to organize data. They also allow us to save a lot of costs because we can share resources like printers and other different services that are available through networks. All right, so how are networks organized, right? Like we have all these devices around the world. How are they organized with one another? Not just around the world, but also inside of the same building. They're organized based on their geographic location or where they are in the world, in a building or in a city. A local area network or a LAN is simply a group of computers or devices that are featured in the same small geographic location, right? So like a school or a small office. They all share a common communication medium, so you have cables like we talked about earlier, or also wireless connections. They're also connected to something called a central connecting device, which we'll detail here in a little bit. Those can be hubs, switches, or routers. All devices that are very important to learn about. Network documentation, I guess. If you're designing a network, you have to define and describe and explain how different devices on a network are connected, right? We want to know the physical location of each of the devices and also how they're connected logically, like the general design, right, that we have up in our brains. The documentation phase occurs before you actually build networks or whenever you make changes to a network. And I just want to highlight Microsoft Visio as a tool that can be used in order to design networks on your PC or on your laptop. All right, so what devices make up LANs? We've got hosts, right? Your phones, laptops, desktop PCs, servers, and tablets. We also have central connecting devices, which are hubs, switches, and routers. We typically interact as users with host machines. Those host machines then connect to central connecting devices, which are responsible for relaying our data to other host machines. But a host is defined as any device that has something called an IP address. An IP address is used to send and receive information. It's very similar to your mailing address for your house. Pretty good way to remember what an IP address is and what its function is. And IP addresses help identify not only the device, so like your house, right, but also the networks where they're located. And if we go back to that home address analogy, a network would be sort of like your city or maybe even your street block. Central connecting devices, as I mentioned previously, are for connecting hosts and also transmitting data. Different central connecting devices, they perform these functions in different ways. And I'm going to show you, model for you those different ways here in just a second. Okay. First, we'll get started by talking about hubs. Hosts send data to a hub, and then a hub then broadcasts that data to any other device that's connected to it. This is sort of an antiquated technology. It's old and becoming more and more obsolete, if it isn't entirely obsolete already in most parts of the world. But what happens is it is going so this computer, this device like you just saw in the demonstration, sends its data, and then every other device that's connected to a hub is going to receive that data. The difference, though, or rather a potential problem here for us, is that this computer may only want to send data to this laptop down at the bottom of the screen and not to the server that's located up at the top right. We're able to correct this problem with devices called switches. And unlike hubs, switches send and receive data simultaneously, and they also send it directly to its intended destination. So take a look at this example here on the right. Okay, so you've got data being sent simultaneously, not even necessarily between two different devices, but amongst different devices entirely, and they go specifically to their intended target. So you saw the yellow piece of data there go from the PC to the laptop, and you saw the turquoise or green piece of data there go from the laptop to the server. Okay, and switches, I guess a good way to summarize it is switches are just simply smarter than hubs. Let's talk about routers. Routers are at the edge of a local area network, and they're the devices that are responsible for connecting us to the internet. Okay, they act as a gateway to other networks. Okay, routers allow communication between hosts on different local area networks. So we can actually connect to local area networks via a router, and that's actually how you make up the internet, right? You connect a bunch of local area networks to each other. Here's a quick example of that data going out to the internet. Pretty cool stuff, right? All of these devices connect to each